Before I get into the story, let me give a shout out to Black Indie Dev for sending this story to me, and it is coming out of Tennessee. And shout out to all of my Tennessee subscribers, and let me know if you are aware of this story and who this man is. You probably know who the man is, but let me know if you're aware of the story. But this guy's name is Mayor Curtis Hayes. He is a mayor down in Tennessee, and he has probably gone and done one of the most coontastic things that a politician down in Tennessee could have done. And that was to declare April Confederate History Month. And if you look at the thumbnail, and I'll probably pull it up in this video as well, he actually has a picture of him signing this declaration into a bill or to a law declaring April this month while he's surrounded by a bunch of hillbilly hicks that probably look like if didn't get what they wanted, they probably would have lynched him. So I find it interesting that he's declaring this a whole bill when you have the people who are in Mason, Tennessee, who are going through it right now with that comptroller down there. You know, the one that we talked about a few weeks ago. It's amazing to me. Like, and look at how fast this is happening right here. Now, this is a black man declaring a Confederate History Month in April. And we know what that means, and we know what that stands for. And you have this fool right here that's actually signing this and declaring it a whole month. Here's the imagery right here. That's what it looks like. I swear. Let me get into it. A black Tennessee mayor declared April Confederate History Month while surrounded by white members of the Sons of Confederate Veterans, which says it celebrates the history of the Confederacy while denouncing racism. That is a whole contradiction because the Confederates are racist. There's really no way to spin it. These are the same people that like to claim that this whole thing is nothing but Southern heritage. I remember they tried to claim that years ago, and it's like, it's impossible. There's no way that you actually believe that. But then again, most of them do, which is the crazy part. And then on top of that, it kills me that they are literally celebrating not only traitors, but people who lost. Another reason why I cannot take Dub as seriously. Why are you celebrating traitors to the nation you live in? And then on top of that, they lost. They lost their war. But I mean, I guess. Livingston Mayor Curtis Hayes, who appears to be nonpartisan with no record of a party affiliation, signed the proclamation last week with members of the SCV. It is a Tennessee-based group comprised of male descendants of the Confederate soldiers, Overton County News reported. The Confederate States of America seceded from the U.S. in 1861 following the inauguration of Abraham Lincoln, who Southern states believed would free the slaves that ran their agricultural economy. Now look at that. That was their reason for them from seceding from the Union, because they were about to lose their slaves. And you want me to believe that they are denouncing racism? If you actually believe that I have a bridge, a long bridge in the Chesapeake Bay to sell you for free. The Confederacy ultimately lost the Civil War, the bloodiest in American history, in 1865 and was dissolved back into the U.S. SCV members described the Civil War as the Second American Revolution, meant to preserve liberty and freedom, and state that the group is benevolent, non-political, non-racial, and non-sectarian. The Sons of Confederate Veterans neither embraces nor espouses acts of ideologies of racial and religious bigotry, and further condemns the misuse of its sacred symbols and flags in the conduct of same, according to the group's website. They can say all that they want, but let's be real here. It's the complete opposite of whatever they claim. Whenever people who are connected to the Confederate, whatever they say, it's the complete opposite. The Confederate States of America was made of 7 southern states, later joined by 4 others who seceded from the Union on February 8, 1861. It came weeks after the inauguration of Abraham Lincoln, who Southern leaders feared would free black slaves, threatening their agricultural economy. And they want to tell us we don't deserve reparations? These fools wanted to keep our ancestors in bondage because they didn't know how to work the land. And they knew that by freeing those slaves, it would hurt their economy on the agricultural side, something that allowed them to live in the fashion that they were during those days. And to literally cut their work off, or their property off, and free their property, because that's how they saw black people back then, as property, that was going to hurt them immensely. Why do you think they paid them and compensated them for loss of property after the slaves were free? It was basically to make up for money lost. Of course, that money probably would have been spent so fast and not lasted as long, because that was just a one-time, as far as we know, payment. Many states like Mississippi listed slavery as the greatest material interest of the world and the primary reason for leaving the U.S. Confederate Vice President Alexander Stephens also described the Confederacy's ideology as that of white supremacy, claiming black slaves were not equal to white men. The Confederacy lost the Civil War in 1865, dissolving back into the Union only once. Each state ratified the 13th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which outlawed slavery. Despite the group's claims, it has repeatedly been criticized for allegedly trying to push the narrative that slavery wasn't at the forefront of the Civil War, which it definitely, like, again, whatever they say, the complete opposite. Hayes' office and SCP did not immediately respond to Daily Mail's request for comment. Hayes, who has served as mayor for more than 15 years, has previously been recognized by the NAACP, receiving the group's diversity award at the Cookeville Branch Freedom Fund Award program last year. And that's saying a whole bunch, considering this is what it's come to for him right here. But this is the NAACP we're talking about. They have been giving awards questionably to people for years, i.e. the most recent big award they gave at their Image Awards, when they gave one to Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, of all people. Like, where did that come from? The Livingston mayor is not the first to recognize April as Confederate History Month, as a slew of municipalities across the South have celebrated it since '94. As of 2022, Mississippi Republican Governor Tate Reeves commemorated the Confederacy this April, despite retiring the Confederate battle emblem from the state flag in 2020. Reeves has said he wanted to keep the tradition alive, as the previous governors had done, but the proclamation failed to mention slavery, Mississippi chief's reason as to why it seceded from the Union. From the U.S. Mississippi Secession Ordinance in 1861 read, "Our position is thoroughly identified with the institution of slavery, the greatest material interest in the world." Those are some very potent words. Slavery, the greatest material interest in the world. But these are the same people that say we don't deserve reparations. Keep that in mind. Reeves and Hayes' move to preserve the history of the Confederacy comes amid the movement to remove monuments of the Southern Army across the U.S., which critics claim galvanizes those who fought to preserve slavery in America in a war that claimed more than 620,000 lives. In 2020, then Virginia Governor Ralph Northam made the decision to remove a 21-foot-tall bronze statue of Confederate Army General Robert E. Lee 10 days after George Floyd's killing by Minneapolis terrorist Derek Chauvin. The statue was erected in 1890, 25 years after the end of the Civil War and 20 years after Lee's death. It was funded by the Lee Monument Commission, founded in 1886, which was led by Lee's nephew, former Virginia Governor Fitzhugh Lee. Along with the statue, a time capsule that was buried at the site was replaced with a 2021 capsule filled with 39 artifacts that include an expired vial of a woven thing. You know what I mean when I say thing. A Black Lives Matter sticker, a New Virginians booklet with portraits of 24 migrants, and a Virginia is for Lovers pride pin and sticker. In a statement after it was removed, Northam said, "This was a long time coming, part of the healing process so Virginia can move forward excuse me, and be a welcoming state with inclusiveness and diversity." Well, Ralph Northam, that's a good message, but it's coming out of the wrong mouth, because this is the same Ralph Northam who thought it was a good idea to take a picture of in blackface back in the 80s. Him pretending to be Michael Jackson. I said, you could have pretended to be Michael Jackson without putting on the blackface, especially during that time, considering how big Michael Jackson wasn't. What was his excuse for him doing that? That he wasn't too familiar with who Michael Jackson was, which we all know was a bold-faced lie, because Michael Jackson was everywhere during that time. I think they called it Michael Mania. He was everywhere. How he didn't know who Michael Jackson was, that's some bullshit, but you knew how to dress up in as far as the attire goes and the wig. but you claim you didn't know who he was. Are you kidding me? That was one of the worst lies that a politician could have ever, one of the silliest ones too, to try to back out of your racism. So Ralph Northam, like I said, right message, wrong mouth. Last year, 73 Confederate monuments were removed or renamed, with 723 remaining in the U.S. according to the Southern Poverty Law Center. SPLC researcher Kimberly Probulis, in a statement Friday, destroying these monuments and these memorials will not erase the legacy of slavery, but abolishing these memorials is a first and essential step in combating the white supremacist values of the Confederacy. So there you have it right there. So we got a little history lesson out of this, in case for those who didn't know too much about the Confederacy and the role they played when it came to slavery. They didn't want that slavery gone. They said that was the greatest material. What did they say? The greatest material interest in the world was slavery. And that's an actual quote from the Mississippi Secession Ordinance of 1861. They didn't want slavery to end. That's probably why, truth be told, that I have a feeling that's probably why Abe Lincoln got assassinated by John Wilkes Booth. I wouldn't be surprised. Either someone paid him to do it, or he did it because that's how he felt. And let's be real here. Abe Lincoln was no saint himself either. None of them were. They all had their own reasons of doing what they did. But the common denominator is our ancestors. So when you see this guy right here, this clown, signing some bill for them to have a month, knowing that they are the ones who are in this picture, whose ancestry is responsible for not wanting his ancestors to be free, that makes him a whole goofy. That is so bitch made of him to do, and a disrespect and a disservice to his ancestors. They are rolling in their graves right now, and I hope they haunt his ass in his dreams.